Hey guys, I'm Nate Hosie, and today we are going to talk about decoy placement in the turkey woods. So in today's turkey hunting scenarios, growing up as a kid, I mean, me and my boys back home, me and my buddies, we'd be out there, and for so many years, we never ran decoys. We would just set up, usually one guy 20, 30, 40 yards ahead, another guy back calling, whoever was shooting was up front, somebody else back yelping. And early on in my turkey hunting career, I never used decoys. And basically, whenever that long beard got up there where you can get a good shot, we would take it and try to punch a tag. Over the years, and as I've become a part of the outdoor industry and had the blessing of being with Headhunters TV, we've had the opportunity to run a ton of decoys all across the country and really test a lot of decoys. So with that, it has given me the ability to see a lot of different scenarios where decoys play a major part in the success of your hunt. So one of the biggest things is, in my opinion, is the placement of how you put these decoys. And you really don't think about that much, and sometimes you can't. Sometimes it's just you cut down or you hit a crow call or whatever you do and that turkey hits and he's right there and you just gotta stick that decoy in the ground, get back and hope that he comes in there and you punch a tag. But if you have time to position your setup, I have found in certain different scenarios or terrains ways that decoys could help you be more effective and also create almost a comfort situation for that longbeard as he's coming. The first thing when utilizing decoys that I'm always looking at is the time of the year. So is it early season, mid-season, late season? That's first thing I'm looking at. Early season, no matter what state I'm hunting in, I'm always running a male decoy with a hen. So that could either be a strutter like I have here, it could be a jake, but I'm always utilizing a male decoy. Now why am I doing that is because early on like that, a lot of times they're still trying to establish the pecking order. So you might not have had too many fights yet to where these turkeys know who's the boss, or man, I'm not going down there to mess with him. He whooped my tail last year. That's the Conor McGregor over here. You know, that's Chuck Liddell over here, whoever that might be. Once they establish who these dominant turkeys are, then it gets a little bit more difficult sometimes with a strutter or with a jake, especially if it's a subdominant type turkey. But early on, I'm always gonna run, mostly for me, I run a strutter and a hen. Now, when I do this, my placement is important to me. And again, this is just my opinion, so I don't want you to think that I'm saying that something you're doing is wrong or whatever you feel has brought you success is what I want you to do. I'm just letting you know my opinion on some things that I've found to work very well. When it comes to a strutter, if you have the ability, once you strike this turkey or in your setup, wherever you're trying to set up, if you think, well, this turkey's gonna come from 1 o'clock. What I like to do is I always like to position my strutter facing the direction I think the turkey's gonna come. Now, could he swing you? Of course. Could he come in behind you? Could he do a million different things? Of course. But most likely, if I'm gonna work a turkey that's coming this way and I think he's gonna appear there, I wanna position my strutter to where he can see the front of him. Why I do that? I just think that in the spring, as a turkey hunter, when you're set up and a turkey's coming, the first thing you notice a lot of time is when he's coming in, he's gobbling, he's strutting, you see his head glowing like a light bulb, especially early in the mornings in dark timber, he's just glowing, right? So you lock in on that, his head as he's coming up through there. I want him to be able to see the head of that turkey facing him. A lot of times too, after a few seasons, if my decoy starts to get beat up quite a bit, I'll actually go to the local hardware store or wherever and get some extra white paint, and I'll go back in and I will paint that decoy's head white again so that it glows well in the woods. So as I position my strutter, what I do is I face it towards the direction that I think this turkey's coming from. Then what I do is I'll take either a hen, either kind of hen. I like to run, most of the time, this breeder kind of position hen or an upright, especially in the woods where they can be seen a little bit more. Sometimes the feeder can get lost, unless you have a logging road or an open space, you know, then it works fine. But either, I don't know that the posture of the hen matters as much, but what I do is with my hen, I will give maybe a 3 to 4 yard gap between that long beard and that hen, or my strut and decoy. What I've seen over the years is as that turkey works his way down to you, unless he's subdominant, doesn't like the strutter, whatever, but if he breaks and he's coming, once he sees that strutter, you could just about guarantee that when he gets down to your setup, the first decoy he's going to is the strutter. And I've seen a million times to where I've got a hen and I've got a strutter out. But when he breaks and he's coming, a lot of times if you just have a hen out, of course he'll come over and he'll strut and he'll display and he's showing off for his lady the best he can. But sometimes he will really strut, you know what I mean? Like he will just lock out in that strut zone and sit around and show off waiting for her to come over, because as we all know, we're reversing nature by bringing that longbeard to us. Majority of the time that hen is going to him while he's gobbling in the tree when he's down. That's why he's letting her know, hey baby, you know, here's where I'm at, and she's on her way to him. Well, in that situation, he'll display out there a lot of times, and not that he won't break down to your setup, but with that little bit of aggression that he feels towards that other strutter or towards that Jake, a lot of times he is going to get in there quicker. Well, what's the point of the 3 to 4 yard gap? Especially for video, obviously we're out there when we're hunting trying to get the best footage we can, in addition to testing these products and testing out different decoys. I found if you leave a little bit of a gap, majority of the time he is going to find his way into that gap. So you want to position that gap in between your decoys to where your shot is going to be, because that gives you the ability that he's not all messed up in those decoys when you're firing. It gives you a little bit of space that you could just about guarantee that even if he comes right to him and he ends up on the wrong side of him, at some point he's going to hit that open between that hen and that strutting decoy and give you a shot in that space. So the placement of why I'm doing that is basically for the shot. I want the shot to be in between the hen and the strutting decoy. And majority of the time it works. Now, as you get into the mid-season, as you get into late season, as you get into turkeys that have been fighting and there's been a dominance established, sometimes it can get tougher. Sometimes, you know, it's not a guarantee that you say, well, I'm gonna put out a strutting decoy and a hen at 2.5 yards and every time it's gonna work. It's not a guarantee. That's hunting. That's part of the game that we play. So you have to adjust your tactics. You have to start to read this turkey. What is it that this turkey that you're hunting, what is it that he wants? How is he gobbling at you? Is he aggressive in his gobbling? Is he only gobbling at certain things? He'll only gobble if I hit a crow call. Well, he's not really interested. Does he have hens? You have a million different things that you're trying to run through your mind to create the perfect scenario to punch a tag. But decoys can help you be effective, and it also gives them something to get their visual off of your setup per se. Also in my placement, I don't like to put them straight out in front of me. I always add a little bit of an angle. So if I'm looking 12 o'clock, maybe I put the decoys 1 o'clock, or if you're right-handed, you know, maybe I'm gonna put it at 11 o'clock here, so that not only because I'm worried about him seeing me, that I'm not worried about. As we're concealed with our setup, you get a good hide, we've got good camo, but what I'm concerned about is I like to call to turkeys when they're close. So when he gets in there tight, if I have him right here and I wanna maybe cut down at him, or if I wanna yelp, a lot of times he might see my movement at the tree as I'm running my mouth call. So my placement, whether it be, like I said, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, whatever you're comfortable with, I always have a little bit of an angle to that, so that that gives me the ability to not have his visual straight here once he gets in tight on us. You know, so like I said, your placement's crucial, especially in the timber. Fields, not as much, but same type situation. For me personally, I'm always gonna, if I know where he's coming from. If you don't and you're just hunting blind, well, then at that point, you know, it could work either way. I mean, it's not that a turkey won't come from the backside of the strutter. I just prefer to let him first see the front of him and lock to his head. You know, that's just a personal preference. But I'll always position them to where, you know, they can be seen the best and can be seen from the front. In a field, a lot of times if it's short grass, that's when I'll run a breeder or a feeder and I'll set them lower to the ground. That way I know that that hen could be seen. Sometimes in the woods between blowdowns, different things, that hen decoy can get lost in there. So I want to be sure that if I'm going to use a feeder or a breeder style and lay her down, I want to make sure that she can be seen. You know, so if you have, you know, a short food plot or something, or a logging road, that's a perfect time to utilize that decoy. Another thing with decoys and their placement that I've noticed, I grew up in the hills of Pennsylvania, been hunting mountain turkeys my whole life in Montel, PA. And one thing that I've noticed over the years is we play with a lot of ridges up there. There's a lot of rolling hills, a lot of ridges. So I spend a lot of time locating, working these tops of these ridges. You know, I'm working the tops and maybe the top thirds, and I'm cutting and hitting these valleys and calling into these bowls and trying to work these gobblers up the hill. Well, with your decoys, I have found over the years so many times early on, I might be on the lip of a hill and cut down, and a longbeard gets to gobbling down the bottom. Well, he's coming. I like to stay there until I know he's coming. As long as I can't be seen, I'll sit there. And once I know for sure, like, okay, he is locked in on me, his turkey is broke, and he's rolling up here to see what I got to say, I'll then fall back and I'll get set up on the flat. When you do that, especially utilizing decoys, I think it's crucial, and in my experience, I have to pull those decoys back off of that lip. I don't know, maybe 10, 15 yards maybe. And the reason is, over the years I've found that when a longbeard is coming up that ridge and he's coming to a hen, if I go ahead and I just position that strutter, 2 yards from that lip, or even a hen, for example, I just put it right there. Even though that's what he's coming to see, a lot of times as they come up and as soon as they peek their head up over and they're hit with that strutter being right there, as soon as he comes up over, so many times just, and I don't know what it is, whether it's just the comfort of him, all of a sudden, oh man, he gets up there and, like I said, McGregor or Liddell is sitting there and he's like, oh man, I don't know if I want to fight. Or maybe even if he does want to fight, he still doesn't have the comfort to get up there and kind of size him up a little. All of a sudden he's just right there and he putts and he goes down. Now he'll sit there and gobble for the next 30 minutes and maybe he swings up around. So when you place your decoys, when you're dealing with lips and big ridges, like I hunt up there in Pennsylvania or wherever you may hunt, pull them back off it a little bit. Let him get up on that flat, come off that setup a little, so that as he gets up there, he can get comfortable with your setup and decide at that point whether or not he wants to come over. Now, another good thing about that is if you set your decoys back enough, even if he comes up and decides, I'm not going to come and break right in, you could still get a shot and punch your tag on that turkey. So in those kind of scenarios, I think your placement's crucial. In the timber, you always want to try to put them in the most open space you can find. So sometimes if you're in the hardwoods, you might not have just a perfect open area, that's fine. Maybe put it in the best location you can find where the angle that you're working this turkey from, he'll be able to see it. Because I do think there is something to them seeing them from a little ways out and then just kind of getting comfortable with the setup. The strutter or a jake sometimes could be your enemy. I've had it a lot of times where I'm working a turkey that is gobbling hard. You're singing him that love song, he is coming, he is locked in, and all of a sudden he gets in there, sees that strutter, and the hunt is over. He doesn't like it. But that, again, that's the chance you take. Whenever you're using a male decoy, a strutter with a, more of an aggressive style of looking for a fight or the potential of a fight, you run that risk of a turkey coming in and not wanting to fight and getting up out of there. So, it's not a fail-safe, but I feel like with the placement, whether you're in a field or the woods, put it in a position to where a longbeard, as he gets to your setup, can see it from the furthest point. It may be 20 yards, 30 yards, 70 yards. Whatever that furthest point is, you think he'll see it to the best of your ability. I think position your decoys there and then let your decoys do the work. The fun thing about decoys, like I said, I have nothing against the guys who, I don't like to use decoys. That's great. I grew up hunting like that. I've got nothing against that. If you just like to go out old school, no decoys, and shoot him when he's in range, I'm all about it. I love it. But what I love about decoys is it gives you the ability to really enjoy the show. When they do trance, when they do lock, when they are dialed in on these decoys and in your setup, as a hunter, it's so much fun to watch as they come down there strutting around, coming down, maybe they start flogging your strutter, your jake, whatever it may be. And decoys add that value to that, especially maybe you take somebody out who hasn't turkey hunted a lot and doesn't understand different movements, different positioning of themselves as a turkey's coming in. Well, decoys do a great job of taking any kind of visual off of you, and when that turkey gets up there, he's like, oh, there she is. That's who's been yelping, or oh man, she's got a boyfriend. I'm not dealing with that up in here. I'm coming down there to knock him out or spur him, whatever it is. So they really do have a lot of benefit. And they also, like I said, they give you the ability to get a really good shot, because most of the time if he breaks into your setup, it's going to give you the best shot that you possibly can because he's right where you want him to be. That's where you positioned and placed your decoys to be to give yourself a perfect shot and, Lord willing, punch your tag. But, to kind of wrap up on it, I do think that the placement of your decoys plays a role and it could help you being more successful as you're utilizing them. But it's all a game of test, trial and error. Like I said, if that strutter sometimes could be your enemy, a jake. We've all probably hunted farms at different times. When you're dealing with a bachelor group of jakes, sometimes they could be your worst enemy. They will run those longbeards around and they can keep them quiet. At that point, the male decoys could be your enemy. So then if it gets later in the season, if I'm dealing with that kind of scenario, then I might just go to a hen, a single hen, a lone hen, and just kind of create a scenario where, hey, it's just me down here. Come on down here, big boy. You know what I mean? There's nobody over here looking for a fight. So you have to just be a hunter, you know, and just learn. There is no such thing, in my opinion, as a pro hunter. We're all learning every time we go out there. I learn something every day, and that's what I love about hunting. Turkeys are so challenging, and they have beat me so many times that I love going out there, because every time I get beat, I learn something from them. And with decoys and with the placement, again, there's no fail-safe. Hopefully you're learning something from this, and hopefully something I've said has helped you or will help you in the future, but there's no guarantees. That's what hunting is. It's learning. I go out there and say, man, this is going to be perfect, and all of a sudden it doesn't go the way I planned. Well, I'm still thankful to just be out there in the turkey woods. So good Lord willing, something I said today helps you out, and good luck out there burning powder. And when you setting your decoys, hopefully something I said has helped you, and hopefully you're punching tags.